my next guest tonight, joining me here on Punky's MixTape, hailing out of New York City. I'd like everybody to welcome to the show, Maddie Namer of the FMs. How are we doing tonight, Maddie?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing amazing tonight. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us. I absolutely appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm very excited to do this show with you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, you're most welcome. I gotta say, ever since Miss Cherry Delight introduced me to you, I can't stop listening to you. I absolutely just love what's going on. The electronic, the shoegaze, everything about it. It's just you're hitting like all the right notes for me.
Ah, thank you so much. That's so sweet to hear.
So I
Uh,
kind of took a little bit of the question away, but tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do in the band, and a bit about the FMs.
okay. Uh, well, my name is Maddie Namer. I sing and play bass and do synths and guitars sometimes in the band. Usually when we perform live, I'm just singing and playing bass. And the band is called the FMs that I'm in. And there's quite a lot of stuff to unpack with the band. Musically, conceptually, we started the band. It's kind of the concept of the band was originally Frankie and I, who's the other lead singer of the band. We've known each other since high school, growing up in New York City, playing music together. And as we got older, we started becoming more comfortable with our own sexuality, and basically realized that both of us were genderqueer, but that Frankie was somebody who's genderqueer that was assigned female at birth. I was somebody who's genderqueer as assigned male at birth. And we thought, well, this is kind of cool and interesting. We could sort of like make a band that's sort of concepted around this. We both sing, we both sort of love how we sing together. We both sort of love the same music and love making music together and are good friends. So yeah, we started the FMs, and the name stands for the female males. And then there's also, we were like, oh, we could think of some other fun acronyms too, like the fuck me sillies and like all this stuff too. But basically the overarching theme was that whereas we kind of look at gender in society as this black and white binary thing, we kind of flip that around and are playing with the idea of the duality of gender and sort of breaking it down into this infinite spectrum, where you can find yourself at any point throughout that spectrum, and it's not even just a one-dimensional or two-dimensional line. It's actually like a three-dimensional shape, so really just kind of breaking down the barriers of that. And that's kind of where we were at, like conceptually with the band. And then of course all of our musical influences sort of get mixed into that as well.
That's awesome. That to be able to, connect with somebody, especially, and stay and grow that relationship. And to do that, through music and that bond together, to learn more about yourselves over that journey. I think that's absolutely amazing. Most people don't get those types of revelations so early. So it's a beautiful thing, for that, and especially for what you're doing to show inclusivity for all people, and to show that life isn't as black and white as the world would like you to see, and to just show the beautiful array of spectrum that is all people. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think it's truly it's a beautiful pursuit. And to see somebody shine so brightly being themselves, I think it's great. It doesn't matter, where you are in the world, as long as you're being true to yourselves. And that's what I look for in music, and that level of honesty, because I think it's important to be able to connect with the things that, you want to find in the world. And as I said, things aren't as black as white, and it's hard to find where you belong. So it's amazing where there are bands like yourselves that are a beacon for that, which I think is just beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. I do believe that you can't really be a successful artist unless you are genuinely expressing yourself. You know, I think that people, whereas like people can be fooled pretty easily these days with like all kinds of like facts and political things or whatever. I think when you're an artist and you're sort of connecting with people on an emotional level, they immediately see through any kind of ingenuineness, you know? So you really don't think you can be a successful artist unless you're really truly expressing yourself and not holding anything back.
I couldn't agree more. And like I said, that level of honesty, I think, is something that people have been searching for so long. And we've there's been artists always along the way that have been a radiant example of that, of just truly being themselves, and then itself becoming the next, the trendsetter, and kind of just opening up doors for the next generation of music to come forward, which is always an amazing thing. And like you said, I don't think you could have any true level of success while trying to emote at that level without people seeing through the facade if it's complete bullshit.
Yeah, no, I feel that way too. And I, honestly, like some of it's been um kind of challenging, I guess, to be like so open about that because, I happen to, so if I want to be a musician, right? And, going on that premise that, all right, well then I have to like truly express who I am to everybody. I can't hide anything. But, really who I am is like kind of taboo in a lot of ways. Like the real me is somebody that is, non-binary. The real me is somebody that is, in a polyamorous relationship, with like two other people, which is taboo. And the real me is like is a very kinky person, and that's a hard thing to be open about these days too, because there's a big level of taboo around that as well. And I think especially, being a submissive person with a penis is like, honestly, it's a big taboo, and it was pretty weird, being open about all that stuff sometimes, and then like having, like relatives and stuff like seeing all of it. But that being said, I do think that my journey with being like open about all that stuff has been a lot easier than it would have been for a lot of other people. I'm lucky in a sense because I don't have any like relatives that have stopped talking to me because of like what I have expressed, to the public. And I don't have a job that I got fired from, and I don't have a community that has like shunned me. I grew up in Greenwich Village in the middle of New York City, so I was lucky in that way. And so I kind of almost felt that I had like a duty in a sense to be, out about all that stuff, because if not me, then like who, I would hope that me coming out can just help others do it. And I think that it's one thing to, I think that as a society, we've come to be more accepting of uh, gay people, same sex orientation, and we're starting to become a little bit more tolerant of like genderqueer people. And I'm just sort of somebody that's got like every sort of category of taboo sexual thing. I'm queer, I'm non-binary, I'm polyamorous, and I'm a kinky submissive with a penis. So I pretty much have them all. And um, yeah, I don't think that I'm like doing a whole hell of a lot necessarily. I don't think like too highly of myself about that or anything, but I do hope that just us being out there and doing what we're doing, that it does like help others feel a little bit more comfortable about that when they're seeing that in the public eye.
I
And,
think
and honestly, I especially feel that way about kink stuff, because I feel like that's maybe the most taboo one of those things right now, you know.
And I would agree as like the things that people might be socially uncomfortable with. And as people are becoming more aware of different types of relationships, they're becoming aware of other things that have always been there. It's not like any of this stuff is new.
Yeah.
All of this has existed for the beginning of history. And I think now people are starting. And I think a big thing that has to do with it is the Christian overture of the idea of like what a relationship is supposed to be, and all of those those social normalities. And
Yeah.
people are starting to understand the different dynamics of a relationship, and understanding that love is love, and a polyamorous relationship can be successful, and understanding that all of these types of relationships, all of these types of companionships they're all incredibly valuable. They're all just as important as someone compared to heteronormality. And I think it's important that these types of things that some would consider taboo start coming out of the limelight, because there's no reason for anyone to feel ashamed for the things that make them feel like themselves. And that's the most important thing at the end of the day. So yeah, even with people that into different types of kink relationships and stuff like that, we're starting to see them in coming to light, and say like in indie films and stuff like that, and shown in a positive light. And I think that's important. And I think for a band to be able to go and just be themselves and put it out there is incredibly important, like you said, for others, because it's just going to validate that they're not alone in this world. And that's the biggest thing, because I think when people are made to feel less than, they're marginalized, and then they feel smaller, and their world gets smaller, and their viewpoint gets smaller, and they're pushed down. And the biggest thing is that people need to be able to open their eyes and see the amazing spectrum that's in front of them, so they're not realize that they're not alone in the world. So I think it's important when albeit it might be a difficult journey for some. Others, it's different degrees. Like you said, you've had success with your family, where you're not talking to anybody anymore, and other people aren't
Yeah.
so fortunate in that regard.
Right. Exactly.
So I think
Absolutely right. Yep.
I think it's amazing for others to be able to put that out there, because it does shine as a light for others that need to see it, and and like I said, not feel alone in the world. That's the biggest thing. If somebody's art can do that, and you can connect that level, then to me that's the utmost success. You did something important, like you said, you're emoting, you're putting yourself out there, and that's the level of honesty, regardless of who you are, that I look for in the art that I consume.
Yeah. No, thanks for saying that. Honestly, I think that the thing that appealed to me, or one of the things that appealed to me most about music, is just its like ability to carry with it like positive social messages. It feels like music, let's say pop music actually, um, has really just been such an important tool for cultural change and cultural messaging, and just kind of like a reflection of what's like happening in the zeitgeist at any given moment. And I think that was always really appealing to me. I've always been really fascinated with um, social upheaval and social change, and cultural movements and things like that. I uh, witnessed September 11th when I was pretty young. I was like really, my school was a couple blocks away, and I sort of watched the buildings kind of coming down, and people jumping off the towers and all that stuff. And the reason why I bring that up is just because I that was kind of a formative moment for me. It kind of cemented this idea that you know history is not just a thing that's happening behind us that we learn about, that the world is changing at any given moment, and that sometimes you can be really, really up and close with that change. And and there was a connection to music for that for me. There was a connection, to wanting to help steer the storyline, I guess. When you have a rock band, and you're a singer in that rock band, you have an opportunity to write lyrics. There's a pulpit that you have, and it for us it's a pretty small one at the moment, but hoping that we can kind of do some good as we play our music.
That's really like Matt, all that anybody could ask is that you'd hope that when you decide to put your art into the world and showcase it when you're up there, that hopefully you can have some sort of a positive effect.
Yeah.
I think that's an incredibly powerful moment to have that realization that, like you said, history is not just the things behind us. It's actually happening right here and right now. And I think for so many, 9/11 was absolutely complete eye opener, and to personally witness it is heart wrenching. Is for all of us that sat watching history being televised, you watched it with your own eyes, and for that to be a formative moment to realize that history is happening right now. There's all this change that's happening around us, and to have that help motivate you and perpetuate you forward into where you are now, I think that's incredibly important. That's a hard realization for some. Most people's journeys aren't that hard, and to see a place that you love and experience that, it's going to change your mindset. And I'm right there with you. That moment right there, it shifted everything, and I think those who have been fighting for social reform, and for equality and progressiveness, and for just general positive treatment of all people in this world, it was a game changer for me. I was in high school, and it totally, from there I was protesting, getting involved at the local level, and then when I'm able to vote, getting involved and trying to actually be the change. And that's a big thing to try to, those who can should. And like you said, history is happening right now in front of us, and I think that's incredibly important to realize, because we can be that positive change. We can be the example. Like you said, why not me? And I think that's an
We're all
incredibly
so much more
powerful
powerful
question to
than
ask
we
yourself.
give ourselves credit for,
What was that, Maddie?
I said we're all so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for.
It's absolutely true. Just seeing what one individual can do can completely start a movement. All a fire takes is a single spark. Like you said, the zeitgeist. That's one of my favorite. Just the right time and the place, the expression of the world around us. I love that term, because we can be that change, and it all just starts with a single spark, and that's important. That's incredibly important. And I think it's needed more than ever, because I think we all need that light to guide us back home right now. Things have been so dark for so many for so long, and I'd like the hope that there's hope and there's light at the end of all of this.
Yeah, I would certainly like to hope so as well.
You're right in the heart of it there in New York with everything. How have you and the FMs been coping through COVID and the pandemic there in New York?
It's weird. I think that we're all sort of just trying to do our best, right? Like we sort of have to like make these decisions on a daily basis of like, is this risk worth this thing that I'm doing? So like we've had to, obviously we haven't been doing any live shows or anything since the beginning of COVID. The last one we did was like right in early March, and then right after that it was just like no way. Even that show, I was a little nervous at the time that was happening, but there was still only like a couple of cases in New York City at that time. But we've been trying to do a lot of recording and making some videos, and we've been trying to just be creative about it. And I think that a lot of people have seen a lot of different art that's sort of come out, and the way different artists are approaching dealing with this situation. You know, we were able to shoot two really cool music videos during COVID, and I think we're pretty responsible with how we went about doing that. Um, you know, right now we're looking at like just a ridiculous resurgence in our country right now. It's really sad. It's really terrible. And honestly, we're having all these amazing opportunities right now, where we're having to really be like, wow, this is an amazing opportunity. Like, how can we do this safely? Um, like, we have this opportunity to work with this amazing video artist out in LA that we're going to like maybe try to go out there in December to make a music video for a new single we're coming out with. This guy, Matt Mahurin, which we haven't announced to anybody yet, but we were really excited about that. Like, he's made videos for Tom Waits and Marilyn Manson and like all these sort of like amazing people, and then like Alice in Chains in the 90s and stuff that I like grew up on. And he's just an incredible and talented artist. And we just have to like, that's like a risk that we determined was kind of like worth it. But I'm scared shitless to get on a plane to LA right now, like in the middle of like what's happening in this country. So it's tough. Like, I think that we're all sort of doing our best. We're all sort of like trying to determine, is this risk worth it? How can I reduce my risk here? I really don't want to get COVID, and I really don't want to especially give it to anyone else.
Yes.
I haven't, to my knowledge, got it yet. So it's tough. It's tough. And I think that also the year itself has like really impacted the way artists have perspective on things. I used to write like kind of like fun, like dance songs and stuff like that. And I just like my whole outlook has been like a lot more sort of heady this year. It just doesn't feel like appropriate to like go and write a like fun like song right now. Like, it just feels wrong or something.
But we gotta be honest to ourselves in that moment. If you're not feeling a dance song in your heart, then we're not feeling you're not feeling a dance song in your heart. And I totally understand that, even with my level of production over the years. And I'm looking at tracks that I had started before COVID and anything, and I'm like, oh, these are amazing, but wow, they're really upbeat, and I am not feeling a single one of these at all. So I totally can relate to that entirely.
Yeah.
So you dropped a couple of things in there, but I wanted to kind of backtrack on.
Sure.
One of them was the music videos. So tell us a little bit about those.
So we did actually, this is kind of related to what we were just talking about with COVID, but the first video that we ended up doing during COVID was this video for Silent City that I think maybe we're going to show on this program at some point. But this one was a song that I had written back in April of 2019 about a pandemic hitting New York City. So it was really weird when a pandemic a year later hit New York City in, April 2020, like fast forward. New York was in a really, really dark place, darker than any other time I've experienced in my life. I think a lot darker than September 11th was. And, here we are, we just sort of finished this song. We got the masters in April of 2020, and it's just like the world is imploding. And we were like, we need to figure out a way to make a video for this song. And we did a lot of creative stuff. We sort of asked fans to like kind of submit videos of the city, like the empty city during that time. So there's a lot of footage of that. We did kind of like my partner and I did some filming with a RC car and a GoPro, where she chased me around like with the RC car, and we like put it in slow mo, and it looks like we did this like super fancy like really expensive camera equipment like type of thing, but it's just like an RC car and a GoPro chasing me around. So that was really fun. And yeah, Silent City, it was I also just like really proud of that song too. Um so that's one of the videos. Um and then should I talk about the other ones too?
Well, yeah, but I just wanna chat on that for a second. That's unbelievable that you had wrote a song about a pandemic hitting your city a year in advance. That must have been eerie, eerie. I couldn't imagine that feeling.
It was eerie in a way, but also like kind of knowing myself, I write a lot of songs about social upheaval. And, it was, I guess, and by the way, I've always been, my childhood fear was viruses. So, like, it's sort of always been a thing that's like been on my mind a little bit. That being said, of course, it was like still pretty freaking weird. Like, even though I knew intellectually that this like could happen, and not only could happen, that it was probably going to happen soon. It was like a lot of scientists saying this. Like Bill Gates is saying this is going to happen. A lot of people are saying like, hey, society, watch out. We could be at risk of a pandemic at any time. We had our like Ebola scare back in 2014. So, and I was really freaked out at that time too, So it was kind of thing we all knew intellectually was going to happen. And there were a lot of kind of like false scares. And then it finally did happen. And even still, like it caught us off guard. I think it caught me off guard emotionally, even when you're like intellectually aware that something can happen, when it's actually happening, it's still really weird.
It really is. Like you understand like the scientific implications that like we live in a society. There's only a finite amount of chances that like these types of contagions can't like go and spread. We were very fortunate over the last 20 years of small, minute, different outbreaks of different things. But I don't think anybody could have mentally prepared for what the wave of COVID was gonna have on us.
Yeah, no, there was no way. We could only like speak about these things abstractly. We had no idea what it was actually going to be like.
And like we for me, like being a big Stephen King fan, obviously, like when this all hit, like the Stand is all I could keep thinking about,
Yep.
and like same, like there's things that you fear, from childhood to adulthood, but those types of like realistic horrors, like that's the type of stuff that like scared the shit out of me. I would never ever hope out of all the Stephen King stories that I could be in, The Stand was never one of them that I wanted to be in at all. So
Which one would you want to be in the most?
some of them are all pretty horrifying, but if I was given a chance, I would prefer to be in the Dark Tower.
Okay.
The Dark Tower is one of my favorite book series. I don't know if I want to like be like with Roland's quartet, because his little group, it doesn't work out for him. Spoiler alert. But I wouldn't mind being a small footnote in the Dark Tower universe.
Got it.
So
Good answer.
I think that would be good. I think like being in the mist, that'd be horrifying. That'd be horrible. I'm
Did you
not,
see
Salem's
Dr. Sleep
Lot, not so
movie?
bad. So
Did you see the Dr. Sleep movie
yes,
that came out?
yes.
I thought it was really hilarious that the villains in that movie were essentially burners.
That's an awesome perspective to look at it, but it's true.
I put the Burning Man a bunch of times, and I
like
was
making
like,
me caught
like
me off.
watching this movie, and I'm like, these people are burners. Like they're just this is hilarious. They like made this like horror movie where the villains are burners.
Oh, that's the best. That's the best. Oh, I don't know, and that's the thing. Like, I wouldn't want to have The Shining, knowing people's thoughts and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's like one superpower I don't think I'd want, because everybody always seems so just weighted by it and the emotional toll that it has on you, and that's Doctor Sleep. So, but anyways, I digress. It's hard not to slip into different apocalyptic storylines when talking about the things that are happening right now and potential what ifs. And Stephen King has a whole array of them that we could compare things to. But
yeah, what's going to happen next in 2020, right? Like, what do you have in your fantasy 2020 playbook? You know, was it California, Oregon, and Washington burning down? Was it global pandemic? Was it
murder wasp or murder hornets, whatever they were?
Hopefully we're not gonna see some kind of crazy civil war or military coup or something that Trump will try to pull off. Like
we've got a finite amount of time to get by until January 20th and the fucking orange tumor off this fucking country. Ugh.
It's like we're like in the, just going back to the horror movie for a second. It's like we defeated the monster, but there's like the last scene of the movie where like the like monster's like on the floor, like oozing, and it's like kind of bubbling up, and there's like one last little hand that like is still moving a little bit or something.
It's that moment perpetually since like 2 weeks ago till January 20th. We're gonna be in that wriggling, bubbling, oozing moment. I just need it to fucking end.
Yeah.
I just want it to end. I want to be like, this is battery acid, you slime. and then it's done.
Yep. Oh my God.
Oh goodness. So
then I might be able to get some fucking sleep.
Yes. Like real sleep. Like not like one eye open sleep. Like, am I gonna fall asleep and like half of people's civil rights be gone in the morning? Like,
right.
God, fuck that guy. Oh, I can't say it enough. I fucking, it feels good. Fucking see ya. I gotta say, Michael Rappaport, great comedian. His amazing Instagram video is just telling him to fucking move out. It's pretty much like once a day telling Trump to fuck off. And it's, if you need a solid reminder, just a good moment to laugh, listen to his 2-minute bits of just telling but Trumpettes to fucking pack their shit and friggin' assigning which kid to fucking which part of the White House they're packing up. It puts a smile on my face.
That's good.
And so, speaking of that, you're talking about the other music video that you had shot this year.
That one we just came out with, and we're really excited about it. And that's the one we did with Miss Cherry Delight.
That's right. Dear friend of the show that we just had on just a few weeks ago.
Yeah. So this one is called Annihilation Denial. And it's a video, well, the song is about climate change denial. And on a deeper level, it's about people that take the path of least resistance with how they see the world or what they believe in. And it is difficult, I think, for us as humans in 2020 to grapple with a very slow moving apocalyptic situation that's going to, starting to affect people already, but, is really going to start ramping up and ramping up and ramping up. And it's going to be just like unfathomable what it's going to look like in 30 years, what our planet's going to look like in 30 years. I mean, some of these conservative models are showing that, New York City, Mumbai, all these coastal cities will be underwater in 30 years. Like, that's fucking crazy. But, we're not really talking about that all that much. And there's a whole bunch of people that are just like, nah, like we choose not to believe that,
Like they just don't even notice that the Arctic shelf is just gone.
Yeah, it's just easier for them, right? So the song is like about climate change, and it's about people that just, it's like this willful ignorance, and like on a deeper level, like why does that happen? Well, it's just like a river, like taking the path of least resistance. That's how a lot of people's belief systems operate. It doesn't make them feel good to have to do all this work and make sacrifices, even if they're small sacrifices now, to plan for the future in 30 years.
And that's the issue, where you know those like us, we want a sustainable future. It's not just about us, it's about our neighbor, it's about the next generation and the one after that, to actually be able to have what they need in order to survive and have the things that we've all grown oh so comfortable with. And I tell you what, I see yours in the background. If I didn't have my synths and my I'd be lost. I don't want that dystopian future where there's no synthesizers. And we're kind of at this junction point of do we head towards the idiocracy based future? Do we head towards
by the way,
Max?
don't worry about there not being synthesizers in the dystopian future, because every dystopian futuristic movie that I've seen has a whole hell of a lot of synthesizers in the soundtrack. So wouldn't
Well,
worry.
that's the thing that I'm afraid of, and that's a fear for me. That's like a realistic punky fear, is that I'm going to be in this dystopian future and it's going to have the shittiest soundtrack.
Oh God, that'd be the worst, wouldn't it?
It would. And it's like, are we heading towards the idiocracy future? And that's the bad, like that'll be a shitty soundtrack. Are we heading towards Mad Max future? I'm like, all right, I don't want to be fighting for water and gasoline, but if I have to, then all right. Or are we hopefully heading towards, say, a Star Trek future, where we're able to move forward and have, equality and open-mindedness, and not be climate deniers, and not be, just destroying our environment, and being aware and actually caring for the planet that we live on and actually allows us to be alive. I'd like to hope that we're at that junction point.
Yeah, man. I hope so too. I just I haven't been feeling like all that optimistic lately. I don't know. Although I sure as shit am happy as fuck that Trump lost the election.
Yes. See, that's like the big win. We celebrated in style a couple of weeks ago, and we officially got the word where he actually acknowledged that he lost, but he won't concede. We're like, all right, you've said the words right there, fucking dipshit. Like, we had balloons and confetti, and the Flaming Lips had their music played, and I got a copyright strike for playing it, but I didn't give a shit, because Race for the Prize was the perfect song to play.
There you go.
But
I haven't seen New York City, like, so it was definitely the brightest day that New York City had experienced since COVID began. Just the energy in the city that day was so special, so cathartic. It was like an 80-degree day. I was outside for hours in my t-shirt in November, which is super rare, and it was just like everyone was just really happy, celebrating like anywhere you went. I think for the most part, people were pretty safe. Everyone was like taking COVID seriously, wearing masks. But like I went to Central Park, to Sheep's Meadow, and there were thousands of people in this giant field, and every like couple minutes there were just like this like cheers that like erupted with like 5,000 people. It was just so amazing and surreal to like experience something like that in 2020 after COVID's hit. There just hadn't been. Spent most of my time just like in my room, right? Like the rest of us. So it was just so weird to like see that and amazing,
Like you said, it was like so cathartic. And I had friends sending me videos. I saw videos online, and just these primal raw screams of victory. And like you could tell like people, they're screaming from rooftops, from the sidewalks, from Central Park, all over the place, and celebrating with music and laughter. And you could hear videos of people laughing in the streets of New York City again, positivity. And it was beautiful. Even here in Maine, watching this and watching the different celebrations from all around the world, it's something else. I had a friend text me. He's like, I just walked out of my apartment in the Bronx and I didn't get 8 feet outside of my steps when I was offered a drink, and people are just celebrating. And I'm like, that's a beautiful thing. And I think people needed that like so desperately this year.
People in New York City definitely needed that.
They really did. And I couldn't think of a city that's really more deserving to have that victory.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know, my hearts go out to, you know, all New Yorkers. I've got several friends there, and just hearing just, you know, everyday life and the different accounts, it hasn't been easy, you know? And so it's a much needed win.
I mean, you know, before like the medical professionals really like knew how to treat people with serious COVID infections and everything, there was this like rampant, you know, spread of COVID in the city. And like, I know, you know, through 1 degree of separation, 7 people that have passed away from this already, you know? And so like for all these people that are like, oh yeah, it's like a flu. I'm like, well, I mean, COVID's only been happening now, and this is like kind of crazy, right? For like 8 months, right? Like, when has a flu killed like 7 people that I know in 8 months?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
Like,
to be doesn't make any sense.
Denying it and be like, yeah, this is a massive international global conspiracy that COVID was created by liberals to win the election. Like, are you like, I know I'm stoned and I sound rational. Or like, are you fucking high? Like, do you hear the words that are coming out of your mouth?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, I don't know what to tell you. Know, it's so weird, right? When like people deny your own like firsthand experience, you know? Because on the one, it's like frustrating enough where you're like, sorry, like there's like scientific community and like experts and like people that I kind of like base my reality off of. But like, okay, like let's just say for a moment that like all of that is some giant crazy conspiratorial like fabrication and everything you see on TV is a lie, right? Like it's just like I'm just playing along here with you for a moment, you know? Like what about my own firsthand experience, right? Like what about these like 7 people that are real people, you know, like my friend's grandma and my friend's mom, and like these are real fucking people that like died this year, you know what I mean? Like no, it's not a fucking flu, like, you know, it's a coronavirus and it's deadly, you know, for a lot of people. And I have another friend that's in the hospital right now. He's my age, you know, so it's it's fucked up. And I don't know, just so that's like the crazy thing when people like sort of deny your own firsthand experience. It's like, am I an alien? That's like, are you telling me I'm an alien, like part of this global conspiracy or whatever, man? Like I'm in on it or some shit. I'm just lying to you right now. Like, what are you trying to say? You know, people that deny climate change. I'm like, I've been to Iceland and seen the glaciers melting, like with my own eyes. You can go there yourself. You don't believe me? Like go see it yourself. You know, like what do you mean you don't think it's real? Like
that's again that path of least resistance. You know, for some it's just easier to grab the lowest hanging fruit instead of actually trying to get some larger knowledge, gaining some sort of appreciation, actually climbing to, you know, doing some work, doing some due diligence, actually, you know, not just taking some advice of their uncle's friend behind, you know, at Denny's, you know, at 2 a.m, wherever you find this information. I don't know where
I think that it's like people tend to be drawn to things that empower them, right? And I think that like conspiracy theories empower people that don't spend any time educating themselves, right? Because it's like, you know, if you're somebody that like doesn't spend any time educating themselves for whatever reason, you know, maybe because they were underprivileged or whatever, or it may just be because that's not who they are, you know. And you see all these people that have spent all this time educating themselves, and they're telling you how things are, and you're just like, no, they're not. Like, you know, there's a child sex trafficking rig right out of a pizza shop, and you got it wrong, buddy. You're just, you know, like, it's like, I think it's like empowering to people, right? To just to buy into some of these things, because now they feel like they're the smart ones, you know, like they're the ones that are fucking in the know.
They're the insider.
You know?
They've got something now to contribute to the conversation, to the table, and they don't. It's just, it's conjecture, and it's easy. It's like not. It's like you can cold read a person, and you can lead them to a point in conversation where you want by just having the most open, ambiguous questions. You can lead a person that way, and that's what you do. You have these big, grand ideas, and so it's plausible deniability that, oh, this all makes sense, and it's the lowest hanging fruit. Like you said, it's the path of least resistance. And I don't know. I've always found like a greater pursuit of knowledge and gaining things beyond yourself is, you know, there's a big world out there. There's tons of things to know about. I don't think living in a small town dictates that you know everything about the world when you don't have firsthand experience, like going and physically seeing a glacier melt with your own eyes, you know, like.
Yeah, totally. And you know, consequently, like growing up in New York City doesn't mean that I know everything about America, you know, or the rest of the world, right? So
Exactly. You know about the things that you've experienced, you know, and the things that you don't, you have an open mind to learn and engage about them. Where others will just close off, and this is the world that they created for them, and this is the one that makes sense in this small confined box, and they don't want that grander scale of perception and understanding to the world.
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
Well, we all give each.
scary to
I think
them.
we
I
all
don't
think
know.
that we can empathize with people more than we can. You know, I think that when we sort of look at other human beings and their own experience, we try to like relate it to our own experiences. We're sort of like, all right, well, that person did this thing. Well, what, you know, going through the history of like my own life, what experiences did I have that made, you know, them feel like that or whatever? And if they can't understand from their own experiences what someone else is going through, they just think that person is like wrong or an asshole or whatever. Like we all overestimate our ability to empathize with others. And I think that once we can like understand that you do not know what it feels like to be me, because I have had a vastly different life experience than you, and I don't know what it feels like to be you. And like I think once we can sometimes like just really get on that same premise, that's helpful sometimes, you know, it actually is helpful in terms of empathizing with other people, is just knowing that you can't know what they feel like, you know, you
And
can't know what it's like to be them.
I think that's a big thing, because socially we try to equate pain with pain, and so when someone is open and revealing of themselves, and they're sharing, you know, socially, and it's a huge, in my opinion, a huge, you know, just faux pas if we like, oh, my grandmother died, and like, oh, when my grandmother died, XYZ happened. We try to equate pain with pain instead of actually being receptive and be like, tell me how you're feeling, being understanding to it, to actually empathize with another individual. And it's a hard habit to break, because we want so desperately, as we live in a society, to feel connected with one another. So what we do is we interexchange stories, we share ourselves, and it might not always be the most appropriate time, because at the end of the day, we're only human, we're all fallible to mistake. But I think if people, and I think it's a small step that we could take, is when somebody's actually sharing something and emoting with them, be receptive of it. Don't instantly try to respond with a similar circumstance, because they're going to be different. We can't
Yeah.
actually understand what an individual went through, you know, to the fullest. We can't know. We can try to understand, but we can't know 100%. And I think once we make
Yeah.
that separation, life just gets a lot more easier. And it's engaging
So
with
yeah, it's
people.
definitely something I got to work on a lot of times. I'm not always the best with that, I'll admit, you know.
And I'm not either, especially when it's something positive and we get excited and you want to, you know, exchange stories, which is something that I do here on the show, and it's something that I'm trying to remember as well. Be like, let's hear where everybody. I want to understand more about your story and not just interconnect. But it's a very human thing. We want to share our stories with each other. We want to be able to connect on that and emote on that level. But it's just finding the right ways for us to do it, you know, without without feeling somebody feeling less than or not fully represented in a conversation.
Yeah,
So
totally.
this has been
Good for you.
awesome. Now, before all the COVID and everything that we've endured, tell me about the the spectacle and the awesomeness that is the FM's live, because I am you're not a traditional live show. You have a lot of things going on.
Yeah, all the live shows, those days when we did the
No,
live
when we
shows.
used to convene in person together.
Ah, such a distant memory. I can
Yes.
almost taste it on the tip of my tongue. um, yeah, I really miss performing live. Um, it was like such a unique feeling, you know. I don't know what it is like about me, but I don't know how to like say this without kind of sounding a little pretentious or something, but like I do really feel like I'm somebody that's really geared towards it. Um, when I get up on a stage, like I don't feel any stage fright at all. I just like feel this intense like adrenaline, and it kind of like takes a hold of me. I almost like black out for the whole show. Um, and yeah, I guess we do like some unorthodox things, and we're sort of always trying to come up with different things, right? Because like when you're playing music, you're putting on a show for people. I always was really interested in not just the music, but like you putting on a whole show, right? Like it's a multidisciplinary experience. It's a multi-sensory experience. You're watching somebody, you are listening to them, and I think what like is most fun about being at a live show is like the participation aspect. Like you are feeding that group like the energy of the crowd, and they're feeding something back to you, and it's the circuitous experience. So some of the things that like just to kind of list them off of like things that we used to do that were um one of the sort of fun ones. We have this song called Hit Yourself, and I would invite the audience to um I would kind of like go out in the audience, and I would tell them before the song like that they had full permission to hit me when I went out to the audience. And that was really interesting. That was like a always really fun experience. I never got injured, thankfully, doing this. People were generally pretty respectful. And what I noticed is that, like, when I first started doing it, people were like kind of timid, and I'd sort of like try to like egg them on a little bit and sort of like let them kind of come at me a bit. And then the more and more shows we did, like people would be a little bit like less timid and less timid, and our fans would start like pushing the boundaries a little bit more. The very last show we did in March, I remember being like, wow, okay, that was like kind of near my limit there. You guys kind of really went after me there. um, but also like when you're performing, you have so much adrenaline, you kind of don't really like feel pain. So that was a really fun sort of experiment. And I guess you could say hopefully one day we'll be big enough where like that will just be completely infeasible for me to be able to do. But um, we've gifted condoms to the audience before, and kind of that's kind of in like a joking way, like, hey, we got to work on this rapid population growth thing happening in this world. Here, guys, take some condoms and have a fun night, and don't have any unplanned pregnancies here or anything. And we've we used to do a show called Subvert on an old ferry boat in Brooklyn, and it kind of was a kink party slash live show. And we would have like fire breathers and hook suspensions and stuff in front of our set sometimes, and it was all on this like big
Oh,
old ferry boat in Brooklyn. So those were pretty crazy. I definitely miss those parties.
that must have been amazing in itself, because you're right. Like we're we're such, I mean, we're sensory creatures, and when you can appropriately hit with the music and the visuals live and just fully get all of people's senses fully engaged, then you truly have something going on. To play on a ferry boat with burlesque and fire breathers and fire dancers and suspension hooks, that that is that's like a dream show for me. Like that would be phenomenal. I would It's everything every 90s rave in a movie I thought was going to happen. Like every time I went, like I'm like, where, no, this is nothing like the movies made it out. And that's just like, that's in such an amazing cinematic moment right there. And it's to fully engage people like that, oh, you gotta, hopefully you'll be able to do that again, so I can come, because that
Yeah,
sounds
yeah, definitely.
oh, might
the
need to do just renegade shows like that.
Yeah,
Safely,
it
when
was a
things
really
can.
special thing, you know, and I it does sort of feel like there's just like a little bit less like freedom to have that kind of like ridiculous underground thing these days, like especially in New York City. Um, you know, like doing like underground like raves and things like that, and parties are just like kind of like harder to do these days. But yeah, that was a really special place and thing that we were like able to do, make that happen. And that it was pretty cool. We performed on top of the ferry boat, so crowds of like a couple hundred people. um One of the first ones we did up there, we had like a big dome, and the and like people were sort of hanging themselves from hooks from this dome. It was like in front of the stage, and uh Duncan Trussell, I don't know if you know who he
Yep,
is, but
I
he
know
like
what
came to
Duncan
that
Trussell is.
party,
Yep.
and he called me the coolest asshole in New York City.
That's a great compliment.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, you know, like that's really nice of you, but like to be honest, like, you know, the one thing that I really strive for in life is just to not be an asshole. And he's like, oh man, I'm sorry, like I didn't mean to, you know, like I wasn't trying to be like that, you know. I was just like, oh no, it's fine. I was, you know, I still really appreciated the sentiment.
Oh man. So obviously, like I said, you're those types of shows, like most people can imagine an experience like that. And I'd like to think that hopefully one day, we'll get to that point where we can fully engage and safely fan interact like that, because it's something like that I can imagine is just, it's such a hive mind of just amazing emotions and positivity. And oh, when I was reading about that, I was hoping that you would mention that, because I was just like, this sounds like no show I've ever been to in my life. And I've always just an urge to see and experience new things in the world, and that sounds like it hits all my list.
Yeah, really. I mean, you know, like it's sort of, there's like it's almost like a feeling, right? Like right now where we're like, oh man, like are we ever gonna have that again? But we will, you know, like there definitely will be like live shows again, and it'll be happening in like a year or so. The, you know, worst case scenario, like 2 years, and you know, hopefully we'll all still be alive then and able to, you know, clink drinks at a in person without worrying about if we're going to kill each other or kill our parents, you know, when we're seeing each other in close quarters. And um, yeah, I can't wait for that day. You know, I can't wait to be able to do live shows again. And I hope in the meantime we can get together some good material and be ready for that day and really hit that day for when it comes.
I think that's all that anybody could hope for, and do, is just to continue to keep pushing forward, albeit some days are much harder than others just to see the light at the end of their tunnel. But there is hope. We will get to that point again, and hopefully it's not as as long as 2 years. But if it takes to that point, then we'll do it and get there safely. But in the meantime, like all any artist can do is just continue to do their best. Hopefully, feel positive or however they need to feel in order to do their art and to push forward and just continue to do different things to connect with other people, and finding some semblance of normalcy throughout all of this. I think that's all any of us can do.
Definitely.
So we've got some. Hopefully, you're going out west to go film a new music video for a new single, and I really hope that's able to push forward. And I do wish you a very safe travels with that, because I know you are nervous about it. Anything else we could be expecting from the FMs here in the future?
Yeah, we we are going to be releasing a video for our Silent City remix. So after we released the original Silent City song, our synth player, Michael Butterly, who goes by the moniker Ghost Stories, did a really, really cool remix of that track, which you should definitely check out if you haven't already. And he's got like a whole different kind of perspective. Not even really sure like how to explain it, but he's definitely like, it's like faster and glitchier and just like really, really a cool take on it. And we did a remix video for that we're going to release at the end of the month. And then after that, we're really kind of gearing up for this release that we're going to be doing in January. And that's going to be kind of like our big sort of moment. We're releasing these 2 songs that we have been recording and working on for the past couple years. And, doing that video with that guy, Matt Mahern, I was talking about. And so that's going to be a 2-song single release in January, Song X and Bad Girl. And 2021, man, it's going to be our year.
That's all that we could hope for, and it's good to keep that level of positivity. And especially I'm excited to see, because you said you've been working on these songs for a couple of years, so obviously you've been really just babying them and making sure that they are exactly what you want for the final point. And I've been there. I've got a couple of that I just never released, and I'm like, it's not there, and it's the utmost importance to me. So I'm very excited to see those when they come out.
Yeah, Bad Girl, I started making demos of back in 2017, and I've been like working on that for like 4 years. It's gone through so many iterations. So really excited to release that one. And I love recording music, and I at the end of the day, I just kind of have to keep doing it. And I think after we released our first album, I kind of didn't feel like the pressure as much to release things. So there's so much material that we have like in the vault yet that we haven't released. We're just really kind of being really methodical, I guess, about like how we release it. We finished a whole album, mixed and mastered it back in April. And it was like 12 songs, like 60 minutes, like sort of your like typical release that you would like do in the 90s or something. I think I have like a little bit of like a traditional outlook on like releasing music. I'm like, you make an album, the album is a work of art. You like order the songs like in a certain way, and they have a certain vibe that go together. Like, it's just sort of like how I've always appreciated music too. I just sort of love the album format. But we started working with this great new management company, Invasion Group, this year. And they have clients like Ani DeFranco and Donnie McGaslin, who is the guy that did the last David Bowie album with him, like his band.
Black Star.
Yeah, such a great album.
Amazing album. Oh.
So we were really like excited to be working with these guys, and they're kind of Kind of like, all right, yeah, this album is great. Like, we're gonna, instead of releasing this as an album, we're gonna like take some of these best songs and release them as singles. And it's just kind of, I guess, like the landscape now, where like it just, as much as I want to kind of just like go ahead and release an album, they uh it just doesn't make the same kind of like impact the way that you really reach people nowadays. It just, that album format doesn't really play into it as much, I guess. So long story short, we're going to be releasing some singles in January, so definitely like stay tuned and check those out. And
You
yeah,
definitely got to send them over to us when you do, because we're going to want to see them,
yeah,
especially something
thank
that you've put so much work in over the last few years. I'm so curious about that because the things that you have released have been just so impressive. And
oh, thank you.
oh, no, thank you. It's new, it's different. You have this electronic shoegaze with a punk ethos through it, while being earth conscious and socially conscious. Or like I said, it checks all my boxes off the list. So
Oh, thank
always, you always have a home here on the mixtape. That's for sure, Maddie.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, this is such a great show to do. I really been enjoying this so much. So I'm so excited
We've
to like
been an
gotten to
absolute
do
pleasure to hang out and get to know tonight. I really appreciate you coming to hang out with us. I really do.
Yeah, I would love to come back. So
Oh,
anytime
please
you want
do.
me to come back, I'll definitely do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring the whole band, bring Cherry, bring whoever. Let's hang out. We're a big family here. We love meeting new people. We really do.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Maybe I'll bring Frankie on next time.
that'd be great. That'd be
Yeah.
awesome. We would absolutely love that. Before we part ways, where can we find you online to check out?
We're like all over the place. So we're on Spotify. If you type in the FMs, the Spotify link is like some crazy googly gawk thing. But if you just Google like THE space FMS, you'll be able to find us there. And then we're on Instagram, so definitely follow us on Instagram. We got a bunch of cool content that we do there all the time, and that's just at the FMs, all one word. And Facebook, we're facebook.com/the FMs music. Our videos, you can see them at YouTube. They're all on YouTube. So our YouTube link is youtube.com/the FMs. And yeah, that's probably enough links. We're on Twitter, and we're kind of like starting to do the TikTok thing too. But we're kind of like all over everywhere. And for anyone that is listening to this show, I can't express how meaningful it would be for you to go and check out our music. Like seriously, seriously meaningful. It means the absolute world to us, that you would go and do that and even just spend like 5 minutes doing that. So thank you so much for having me on. Thank you to everyone that's listening and tuned in and watching this show right now. It really is like truly a gift to have your attention right now.
It's honestly, it's a gift to be able to get to meet so many amazing people and hear their stories. It's an incredibly humbling experience just to engage people the way that I have, and it's truly been an honor to sit and get to share some time with you, Maddie. It really has been.
Thank you.
And it's kind of one of those things where, with some, I really feel like my family grew like one member bigger. I am a big sensitive individual, and I'm heartfelt. The older I get, the softer I get, I swear, but I'm okay with it. And these types of connections are needed now more than ever. So I truly appreciate it. And I really look forward to getting to spend more time with you in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, likewise.
Thank you. This has been a blast. My guest tonight has been Maddie of the FMs out of New York City. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. What a treat.